at the same time, I think people fall into the trap of feeling like they shouldn't do any intensity or they should just focus on base miles. I really like to kind of gradually progress it. I like to have a transition block into the build phase. So cycling is such a mental game, and you don't want to lose that ability to go deep. And if you just kind of maintain it throughout the off season, you're going to make your life a lot easier when you get to February.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brendan Housler with EVOQ Bike. I'm here with Landry Bobo, and we have a great podcast on base intensity. What should base intensity be like? Is it the same intensity as when you're doing a build phase, or even as you're in season racing and training full on? So, Landry, why don't you jump in and let people know what is base intensity?
Yeah, I mean, your primary goal during base season should be to rack up as much CTL as you can, like within reason, and just ride a lot. But at the same time, I think people fall into the trap of feeling like they shouldn't do any intensity or they should just focus on base miles. But then the problem with that is you show up to the build phase or even those early season races and you're just totally unprepared mentally and physically because you just haven't really gone hard. And so it's really important to make sure that throughout the winter during base, you're still doing intensity. And this doesn't mean like full send 5x5 VO2 max, but you still need to be working on some things to prepare you for that build phase. And we're going to kind of talk through some of those sessions that we recommend that you do, because it's kind of a little bit confusing. It's like, well, base season, what kind of intensity should I do? Like, should this be tempo? Should this be threshold? Like, are we talking VO2 max? So we're going to run through like our top favorite, what intensity should you do during base?
I love those 2 points that you pointed out of the mental preparation, that when you go in and get shelled and you just haven't, your brain hasn't clicked over to going hard, that is huge. And the specification of these aren't death workouts, but they're hard. They're not easy. And so we both picked two that are our favorites. Why don't you kick off with your first favorite base training intensity workout?
Yeah, one of my favorites is these like 5-minute 20/40s. So it's basically 20 seconds, like almost as hard as you can go, maybe like 9 out of 10 effort. And you can do it out of the saddle, you can do it seated, you can do a mixture of both. And then it's 40 seconds, like zone 1 spinning. And then you just do 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off for like 5 minutes. And I really like this one because it gives you a little bit of everything. It gives you that kind of anaerobic, just hard as you can, like you're following an attack. It gives you a little bit of lactate clearance. It gives you a little bit of VO2 max, but it's also not deathly hard. And it's something that you can kind of just do any time of year because it's simple. All you got to do is just go as hard as you can. So if I was to give somebody like 5-minute VO2 max, then a lot of times it's going to be, hey, you have to hit these specific numbers. Of course, in November, you're not going to be able to hit it and you're going to get discouraged. Like, oh man, I'm not as good as I was during the season. But with this, it's just like, it's simple. You just go as hard as you can. So I think mentally it also works really well during the early base season.
So 5 minutes in duration, how many sets, or is it just one?
Oh, I like to do maybe usually like 3 to 5 throughout a ride.
Okay, cool. So just scatter them throughout like a 2, 3, 4 hour ride.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. You can also even do it where you do like 5 minutes and then like kind of straight into tempo to get in a little bit more of like an extended interval. There's a lot of ways you can do it.
Perfect. All right, my first one is a general bucket of training sprint workouts. And why would you do sprint workouts now in November, December, January, when you're not really sprinting in a race anytime soon? This is a great time to work on technique. Actually give these workouts some thought and go out with the motivation and dedication to understanding the gearing, meaning you should be able to be going down the road at different speeds and be able to sense from when you're riding at zone 2, 3, or 4 what gear you need to be in to then go sprint. Don't be caught being overgeared or undergeared. The coordination between your arms pulling and legs pushing is another thing to work on. The other reason is your legs are going to be super strong if you're doing strength training, if you're doing torque training, and this all translates to higher watts when you're sprinting. You should be cranking some PR numbers out there because you're so focused on these. And then the other thing is understanding the difference in feel and RP of a 10-second sprint versus a 20-second sprint versus a just max 5 seconds. You should know how to pace these. They're not the same exact thing. And even Scott McGill was talking on the podcast of he does some sprint training where he's coming around a corner and chasing to a specific sign. You're not always going to be able to be in a race or even a group ride and say, okay, here I go. I'm going to set up for the sprint. I'm going to get the tension in my core. I'm going to be ready. This has to be like second nature and go. If you don't practice it, it doesn't become second nature and someone beats you. So the last thing would be accumulating a lot of time. And when I say a lot, we're talking maybe 2 minutes of sprint wattages at a really high wattage. So let's say you have a 1200 watt sprint. Look at how much time you accumulated over 900 watts. And really, it might not be possible to do with 20-second efforts because the wattage might fall off. But that's really going to turn you into a durable rider. And then I said the last thing, this is probably the last thing, do the town line sprints with your friends. It hits differently when you're reacting to somebody else and you're not doing this on your own. So sprint workouts through December, January, if you're coming out and hitting the build in February, and you can obviously shift this based on when your racing starts.
Yeah, I like what you said about technique is like kind of the way I see base season is you're kind of working on all these foundational things, and then during the build you put it all together. So it's like you're building that metabolic fitness, that base fitness, but you also want to work on the other technique pieces, whether it's sprinting or you're climbing, like your low cadence. That way, when you start the build, you're more efficient as well, and that's going to take you a lot further during the build.
Awesome. What's number 2?
Second one, that's kind of my favorite or that I really like is a tempo with bursts, and they're not really long, but I like this as more of an extended effort. And again, like this gives you a good mixture of efforts and intensity, but it's not super, super hard. And it kind of just reminds your body like what it feels like to do these longer, more extended efforts. And like we said, so much of this is mental. I remember reading a book by Alex Hutchinson called Endure, and he was saying how like one of the biggest things that can change during the course of a season is actually your mental strength. And I mean, I know if you ever get to that point where you do like that first VO2 max workout and you haven't really done a lot of high intensity, you can really be trepidatious about it of like, I might die during this VO2 max interval. So like it's half of it's just remembering how to suffer. And so, or not forgetting how to suffer. And so, this is one of those workouts that's like, mentally you're kind of getting close to that limit for a little bit, but then you're recovering. So usually I like to do 12 minutes. You can even extend it to 16 minutes. It'll be pretty much like 3.5 minutes tempo, so 85 to 90% of FTP, and then 30 seconds, maybe even like close to your 2-minute power, so maybe like 120 to 130% of FTP. For 30 seconds, you recover, do that again for like 12 or 16 minutes, maybe do 3 reps. You can space them throughout a ride. You can do them with short recovery. And that's just going to give you like a little bit of VO2 max, a little bit of lactate clearance, a little bit of muscular endurance, and just keep the legs loose.
I like it. I like the checking in on the systems. And that's actually somewhat related to what my second one is, which I actually don't... I should probably give this to other athletes more often, but sometimes people do it on like a freestyle type or free ride, is some seated stomp check-in workouts. And what do I mean by that? If you've watched the Torque Max video, you know that you can see massive gains in your 2, 3, 4-minute power by being able to put out big watts at high amounts of torque. And so when you come to a few inclines on a long ride, or maybe even just a 2-hour ride, stomp on it and feel how are your legs engaging with the pedals from all of the strength and torque work that you've been doing. If you're an athlete that's doing these things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You feel so connected to the pedals. And I had an athlete use the term liquefy the pedals, which I've never heard before. And I love them. Like that's what it feels like. You're just melting these things beneath you. And as you have your core engaged, can you feel all of the muscles engaged and firing, your glutes firing? And the reason you feel that is because when I say a stomp, really continue to use your torque work. Like you're feeling, you're pushing and pulling. And you can also get a sense of like, how does this change as you play with the cadence in an effort like this? 50 RPM versus 60 versus 70, all relatively low cadence, are going to feel a little bit different. And while you're doing this, you're going to have the ability to hit high wattages in zone 4 and 5. So just as Landry said, you're kind of doing a check in there, but you're not doing this 5x5 minute VO2 max effort. And honestly, you can get a little mental win. I was out riding, and it's amazing to me. I climb the fastest at this type of climbing sometimes, and took a just sub 3 minute KOM that I've tried before, just normally ripping, but holding 500 watts sometimes on a 3-4 hour ride. It's like, I just don't have it at the top. And I couldn't believe that when I just cruised out there, mostly endurance, and I was like, oh, I'm on this climb, I'm going to see how my time compares. Took the KOM by 15 seconds. It's like, wait a minute. I wouldn't necessarily climb that way in a race all the time, because it is more muscular fatigue from all the torque. But if that was the race winning move, yeah. I mean, now I know too. I've like, okay, just gear down sometimes and muscle through it if you can. So I think these little check-ins, it's another way to continue your torque work. And also it, just changes it up a little bit fartlek style. So, yeah, that's my number 2. All right. I want to give a shout out real quick to this air bank that I got my hands on. These guys asked me if I wanted to try one of these, and I initially told them no, because I have tried a few other ones. I'm going to cover up the brand of this other one. My biggest issue was sometimes these nozzles don't stay on the head of the tube, and it's really fiddly. It would be great for travel, but day-to-day use, I'm not into it. This one has an LED screen that I checked this against my Toe Peak Smart Gauge. It's spot on. So not only can I bring this on a ride and inflate tires like a CO2 cartridge, don't need those anymore. This recharges in 30 minutes with a Type-C cable, but it's so accurate that if you're at a race, and I had at Tulsa, my pump, the LED screen broke. So we had to use that pump and kind of guesstimate and then get a gauge from somebody else. It was a pain in the butt that day. If I had this, pump it up to whatever, and then you can check it. So this is obviously mega for being able to travel. You can't bring CO2 on a plane. The biggest thing that I said to them is, okay, these are like 120 to 150 bucks. It's $65 on their website, and we're going to put a link with a code that I think with shipping, it ends up being $61. This is a no-brainer for the stocking stuffer, for the Christmas gift, and you can see the bigger lip. This thing connects really well to the Presta tube. You can also use it on Schrader if you want. So I'm going to try and get you one of those, Landry. Guys, check out the link below for that. We want to leave you with a bonus tip, because this question comes up very often. Okay, so you guys are talking about these intense workouts that I do that are not the same as in build phase. How do I transition into build phase? What's a workout, Landry, that you like to do as, say, someone's starting a race in February or March? Maybe they're doing base in November, December. They get into January. What's that transition zone like? And we just need one.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that helps is just building confidence that you can do these hard efforts and you can go deep. So I really like to kind of gradually progress it. I like to have a transition block into the build phase. So one workout that I really like is these lactate clearance efforts, where you go hard for 30 seconds and then you recover for 2.5 minutes, and then you repeat that for like 12 minutes. And then each week kind of shorten the rest all the way down to 1 minute. So that's a really good way to kind of like inch it up and build confidence. And by the time you get down to like 1 minute rest in between those surges, like it's a hard effort, but you feel like you're prepared to smash it because you've kind of worked up to it.
I like that. And for those people in the EVOQ ecosystem, they've definitely seen a similar workout like that from me. And in the Training Peaks plans, that's probably like one of the first lactate clearance workouts we do. So if you want to try Landry's alternative, do exactly what he said. Start shortening those rests, keep the duration the same. And that's something going to help you get race ready as you're moving through the build phase. I'm going to actually reference one of my favorites is from the HIIT VO2, the interval training with the decreasing interval duration. And I think that the lower RPE versus going and doing a 5x5, or even for me, I hate 40/20s. So having to do something like a 3-minute, 2-minute, 1 minute is just much more palatable. And it gives me that boost of confidence of, I need to get through the 3-minute. 3-minute VO2 max is never easy, but as long as I get through that 2-minute, 1 minute, that's a piece of cake. And I add on 30/30s for my athletes after. And then I think, as you're talking about progression, I like to add a 4-minute in the beginning. And that makes it quite a doozy. If you do 3 sets of 4, 3, 2, 1, and then a set of 30/30s, 5 of them, you get like 27 minutes of VO2 max work. It definitely does not feel like that. So I think that's a solid way to move into your race season. I love this one, man. This was a great topic. Any final words or thoughts for people about base intensity or moving into the build phase, or any other shout outs you got?
Yeah, I would just say don't forget how to go hard. Don't forget how to suffer, because cycling is such a mental game, and you don't want to lose that ability to go deep. And if you just kind of maintain it throughout the off season, you're going to make your life a lot easier when you get to February.
I love it. Stay motivated, everybody, whether you're outside, inside, virtual. Let's get after it. Thanks for checking out the podcast. If you need help with coaching, hit up Landry at evoq.bike, EVOQ.bike. I'm Brendan at evoq.bike, and the blog has tons of free tips. And if you're not ready for coaching, check out the training plans on the Training Peaks website. Thanks again for your time. We really appreciate you stopping by. We'll talk to you soon. Landry, see ya.